Hey guys, so in today's My Life with ADHD, we're going to talk about dealing with depression. So in last week's vlog, we talked about working remotely, maintaining routine while on the road, and I mentioned multiple times that I've actually been away for 2 months. And this kind of has to do with today's topic because I am currently dealing with a depressive cycle. Now, people with ADHD frequently have depression and anxiety as comorbidities. These have been my constant friends for most of my life, literally all of my cognizant life. I've been dealing with depression or anxiety. So that is one of the reasons why my updates have been kind of irregular with this series, is that it actually takes a lot of energy to record these My Life with ADHD vlogs, and it also requires a degree of caring that I don't always have when I'm depressed. It's like the spoons analogy. I have to reserve my emotional spoons for things that will pay me, or things that I've contractually agreed to, or things that I have done for the past 10 years and it's part of my update schedule. So unfortunately, when it comes to dealing with depression, the things that get cut first are usually things like these outreach vlogs, because they're kind of done as just a nice bonus to connect with the community and help people feel less lonely. And isn't that kind of like what depression basically does? Is I shut that off. I basically continue to isolate myself. And many of us who have depression and have ADHD have learned to shut ourselves off from other people, because either we were raised from childhood to bottle it up, or maybe when we're depressed, we start getting kind of obsessive about the things that depress us. They start to form a reoccurring cycle in our minds, and that's all we can think about, and people don't want to hear it. Or it's problems that are pervasive and somewhat out of our control that we cannot change, or it's due to just trying to make up for the shortcomings that come with ADHD. The amount of energy that's put out leads us kind of depressed. Now, a lot of people talk about feeling depressed after cons, and I'm actually really happy that people are talking about that, because it is a common issue. It's because you put out so much emotional energy and you get so much feedback at cons, and then you go back to nothing. It all drops off. And plus you're tired, you're getting up early, you're pulling long nights, you're often sitting in dark, cold convention rooms. So post-con slump, post-con depression, con crud, those are all normal. Now, for me, my depression manifests for one of two reasons. I do have cyclical depression. It does come back every so often, and it was actually why I'd mentioned to my psychologist at the time that I thought I might be bipolar, is because I do have these depressive spells, and other people have described my upbeat behavior as being kind of manic. So I just wanted to explore that as an option, because it does run in my family, and he told me that I was not. In some ways that would have made my life a lot easier, because I could have gotten help and medication for it instead of trying to deal with it on my own. So on one hand, my depression is cyclical, but also on the other, it's often situational. And coming back from a 2-month on the road spree will definitely drain you, and then trying to get back into your routine and taking on everything that's been kind of pushed aside during those 2 months is overwhelming, and often feels like it's out of your control, or you're not making any progress. And then, not to overshare, but I always have financial problems. I'm always struggling to make ends meet. Freelance does not pay what it used to, and I'm not getting the same kind of jobs I used to with the same regularity that I used to. Nothing has really come in to take its place, and conventions have been doing worse for me. So that's always kind of a ever-present concern for me, is making ends meet. And then I also do all of these basically what turn into volunteer projects that I don't ever see any kind of payment or acknowledgement for, like doing volunteer workshops. I often don't even get a thank you or a follow-up email or any kind of acknowledgement or any kind of feedback on how I did at the workshop, which is intensely frustrating. Or like doing the blog, I often put a lot of time and effort and energy and knowledge and research into my blog posts with no response whatsoever. Or even some of the videos that I record here for this channel, everything is recorded way in advance. It takes my editor forever to edit them, and then I don't hear anything about it. So And then, of course, I also will get pre-menstruation depressive spells, but those usually only last for like a couple of days, and I usually can tell why they're coming. So right now, the depressive cycle I'm in comes from being exhausted from being on the road for 2 months and trying to get caught back on everything as quickly as possible and feeling intensely overwhelmed, and also just the general malaise of like having trouble making ends meet. Nothing I do seems to matter. Nothing I do seems to make any difference in my life or the life of others, that kind of stuff. Now, I do the best I can with the second. I'm not always the best at it. I don't always put myself out there as much as I should, because when I'm dealing with depression, I tend to seal and wall myself off. It's harder to force myself to like send out job applications or apply for to agencies or apply for job listings, but I do try to do that while also doing the 10 million other things that I'm doing. But I'm not always the best at it, and I often will put off doing things. Like I put off picking the NATO scholarship winners and then contacting the NATO scholarship winners because I was waiting for my depression to lift so that I would be in a better mindset, and it hasn't lifted, and I just feel worse. And then people are sending me emails, and they're sending my partner emails when they could just be emailing me. And we decided on our winners, and I've notified everyone, so that's handled. So hopefully those emails will stop. But it definitely makes me feel worse because it makes me feel like my life is even more out of control. So my depression does not manifest in an attractive way. It doesn't manifest in the same way people are taught to recognize depression. I don't lay in bed all day. Obviously, I'm up, I'm dressed, I'm bathed. I even ate lunch. It doesn't stop me from working. It manifests as anxiety, and it also manifests as anger, self-loathing, and frustration. And all three of those are considered inappropriate by the art community in general. And there's been some ooh-woo push at like not treating it like that. Like, you should open up. Good vibes only is toxic. But those people never actually back up what they say by caring. So like, I've been trying to recognize in myself that like these feelings are legitimate. Well, the anger and the frustration are legitimate feelings that come from a legitimate place. I do a lot of work. Maybe I don't always work smart, but I work hard. And I try to do a lot to help other people, and I give a lot, and I don't get much in return. And then I also have these financial concerns, and then I'm also kind of watching my career die on the vine. So those are very real concerns. The self-loathing, though, it's me taking it out on myself because I'm not good enough to have more views on my videos, for example. Like, my videos are not good enough. I'm not good enough to have more views on my videos, for example. Or I'm not good enough to have enough subscribers for anyone to bother noticing what I do or acknowledging what I do, even if I've been doing it for years before anyone else has done it. Or people, I'm not good enough because even though people say they want artist interviews and they want to learn more about making comics and they want to learn more about watercolor, and I'm creating content to fill that void, they not only pretend like it doesn't exist, and these are people who I know pretend like it doesn't exist, but then they continue to complain about wanting it and how they would love it if it existed. Like, so I will beat myself up for these factors that I can't control. I'm putting it out there. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to be good-natured about it. I'm trying to help other people about it. I'm trying to make the comics community the kind of place I wish it had been when I was growing up. I try to put the knowledge out there. I try to put the help out there, and I try to make myself accessible without taking too much away from myself. So I need to work harder on not beating myself up, because I am doing, in that regard, I'm doing the best I can. I am upholding the standards I set for myself. Am I pitching enough comics? No. Am I making enough progress on 7-inch Kara? No. Am I sending out enough stuff to agents and agencies? No. Am I pursuing my kidlit career to the best of my ability? Probably not. Am I wasting my time doing anime cons? Probably so. So, like, there are areas for improvement, but instead of beating myself up, I need to work on building my confidence so I have the confidence to actually go do those things and go pursue those things instead of feeling like garbage and being down on myself all the time. But without friends who are open to talking to me about it and working through it with me and hearing me out, because most of my friends are actually very uncomfortable when I talk about being depressed, and like my mom is very uncomfortable. It's basically like, you need to leave Joseph because he's not making you happy, disregarding all these other reasons that I'm unhappy. Or God has a plan for you. You just need to keep on God's path, right? That's not helping me feel better. And it's not helping me work through, and it's not reminding me of the value that I have or the value that I give to other people's lives. And that's really like, I shouldn't place my value on how others perceive me, but I do. So I am going to work on that again. Last year I was actually at a place where I was really good about not doing that, but every time I get depressed, it starts all over again. But I recognize those symptoms and I'm working on it. But of course, like talking about these things on Twitter these days is considered inappropriate. And then I get a bunch of people who are like, I'm really worried about you. But they're not, because they never check in on me. Like, they literally never talk to me. Or people who used to DM me privately to be like, you know, talking about the problems in the comics industry is really unprofessional. So I am not really comfortable talking about it on Twitter anymore, which is a shame because I am really trying to be more mental health positive and more proactive in normalizing various degrees of mental health and the different phases and stages that people can be in. And as someone with ADHD, the depression is just a part of my life. And yes, I can be medicated for it, but I may be still dealing with the fallout from it anyway. So it's really about learning how to deal with it and how to deal with it appropriately. And how I handle it now is I just disappear. I feel like if I don't have anything nice to say, I shouldn't say anything at all. So I'll just disappear. Like, I'll post art and say nothing else because I don't have the emotional energy to pretend that I'm happy when I'm not. So it's easy to fake it for a while, but it becomes very taxing. And by a while, I mean a couple days, and then it's taxing. And then, like, pretending that everything's okay, I just don't have the energy for it anymore. So I shut down and I disappear and I kind of go into the Becca work hole. And I know that, like, not having any sort of a personality here on YouTube or over on my blog or at cons or on Twitter is definitely detrimental, because what we do is also partially lifestyle, and people want to like the people they're watching, the people they're reading. And when I'm depressed, I have a harder time being a likable person to strangers. Like, I am sure that people who know and love me still like me, but there's no reason for strangers to, or for strangers to feel any kind of like tie or identity, you know what I mean? So me disappearing isn't good, but me getting angry isn't good either. So I'm actually still kind of learning how to deal with these things. So why, I already talked about why I'm depressed. It's cyclical and situational, and a lot of things in my life are just out of my control, and that also makes me kind of depressed. And the way, like I said, it manifests in frustration, anger, self-loathing. It also manifests in anxiety and insomnia. And I know it has come back because I have had insomnia for the past 3 nights. So I'm back on taking melatonin, which I hate doing because it makes me sleep all day. And I'm taking like a very tiny dose, and it still makes me sleep all day. It makes me really tired all day. But getting sleep is better than not getting sleep, because you can make yourself a lot sicker if you don't sleep. But really the biggest effect is I'm just emotionally tapped out. Like, I know I care, like on a deep down level I care, but like for surface level stuff, I just don't care right now. And I'm somebody who, a lot of my personality is based on being gregarious and energetic. So not caring is really bad for me. The people who are the closest to me in my life, for the most part, understand it and are, you know, like they'll stick with me whether I'm gregarious or not. But it definitely affects a lot of things in my life. Like, it kills my motivation. It kills my desire to create. And I make so many things. I'm actually in the middle of so many things too, because I'm pitching a comic to a company and I'm working on 7-inch Kara. I need to letter chapters 6 and 7, and I just don't care. Like, I don't want to. My font has been fixed. A friend was kind enough to fix it for me, and I have my scripts, and I really just like need to sit down and do it, and I just don't care. I don't want to. And that's not good. And I have chapter 8 penciled, and it's ready to begin painting, and I actually want to just finish my MechaCon commissions first, and then I'll start painting it. But like, finding that motivation to just push and push and push and push and push, even when I'm getting no outside encouragement, I'm seeing no outside reward, no acknowledgement, like it just doesn't matter. if I make these things or if I do these things. It makes it really hard to do it. And when I'm having a depressive cycle, it's even harder to convince myself that I should do it. So this is really bad because it obviously prevents me from moving on in my life. You know, making Kara should open up doors for me, and pitching comics should open up doors for me. And if I don't have the energy or the willpower or the motivation, then I'm cheating myself and I'm just making my situation worse. So I've been kind of forcing myself to work on these things, but I'm not feeling inspired, so I know I'm not doing the best work that I can. And I'm one of those people who heavily advises people, don't wait till you're inspired, don't wait till you're motivated. But when you're in a depressive cycle and it's been weeks, yeah, it starts to be a problem. It starts to be really taxing. It's like when you run out of gasoline, you're burning oil. You know, it's not good. And this also kind of spirals into a lot of self-doubt, like constant self-doubt. Is what I'm doing worthwhile? Does anybody care? Am I just really a terrible artist and no one wants to tell me because I don't have the heart to? Does anybody read any of the things I make? Am I just wasting my time and wasting my life? Like, does anybody care? Does this help anyone? Lack of confidence, so I'm not pursuing the jobs that maybe I should be pursuing because I don't see myself as being good enough to be worthy of those jobs. And then I've been dealing a lot with imposter syndrome, where even though I have the credentials, I don't feel like I'm worthy or good enough to go after things that could be good for me. So other than being exhausted and tapped out and overspent, what kind of spurs this? Well, being on social media, seeing how popular other people are, seeing the sort of responses other people get, that definitely fuels all of these feelings. And one of the best things you can do is you can stop comparing yourself to others, which is not just like you wake up one day and it's done. It's like a daily decision that that's not what you're going to do, or your goals are not the same as theirs, or you don't know what's going on in their life, all these external factors. Like, everybody has a different life, everybody has a different plate in front of them, and we all have a different set of things we have to deal with. Maybe my ADHD is what's keeping me back. Maybe my depression is what's keeping me back. Maybe my anxiety is what's keeping me back. And these people aren't dealing with those factors. I don't know, because I don't know their lives, and I'm not close enough with any of them to feel comfortable asking these sort of questions. So what I have to do is I have to limit my time on social networks. Now, that's kind of a catch-22, because if I'm just posting art, nobody cares. They want you to you need to interact with other people. You need to talk to other people and engage them on the things they care about, and then they'll start to care about the things you care about. So limiting my time on social media, while it helps me not compare myself constantly, it also means I'm not participating in a community that's important to me. I work from home. I don't get to talk to a lot of people other than at cons when I'm supposed to be working. So online is sometimes the most social engagement I have, which I know is kind of sad. But it is what it is, and even if I'm working on fixing that, I can't control other people. So even if I make physical plans to meet up with people in real life, if they flake on me, there's not much I can do about that. So I also work on easy projects that are fulfilling. So I've been doing a lot of field tests. You can check those out on my Instagram. Because I'm just creating a small piece of art, and it doesn't really matter if it's that good. I'm just figuring out if the paints are good, and sometimes it turns out really good and I want to share it. But it's like small, easy to fill goals. I try to get out, but it's been difficult because my company, the guy I keep, Joseph, the guy I will go out on walks with and go see movies with and do things with, he's been sick this week, so he doesn't want to do anything. So I've just been staying at home and sitting in front of my computer and doing the same things that make me sick. I've also been working for the past 2 years on rewiring my intrusive thoughts, and I've talked about those in other videos, I think, to be more positive. So instead of hating myself, instead of beating myself up, instead of blaming myself for everything, I try to acknowledge the good things that I've done, the attempts that I've made. Now, whether or not it's actually helped anyone out, whether or not they acknowledge that it's helped them out, I can't reward myself based on that, because I can't count on that kind of loyalty or that kind of friendship. So I have to just reward myself for, like, hey, you tried, girl. You did a good thing. You tried really hard. And I know that seems kind of pathetic, but sometimes that's all you've got. Sometimes the only person you can really count on for encouragement is yourself. So I've been trying to rewire my negative, intrusive thoughts that tell me I'm garbage, that tell me that nothing I do matters, that nothing I do helps anyone, that I should just shut up and go away. I'm trying to rewire my intrusive thoughts to be positive and encouraging and acknowledging the things that I do. So I know this was a little bit of a downer of my life with ADHD, but I also know a lot of people with ADHD really struggle with this. So I hope it was helpful for you guys, and I hope it makes you feel a little bit less alone. So tell me below in the comments maybe one thing that, if you're comfortable, one thing that triggers your depression or your depressive cycles, and one thing you do to help mitigate those problems. And I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and bearing with this. And I'm trying to get the My Life with ADHD vlog series back on schedule because I know it has helped people because they actually tell me. And I would like to continue helping them because it makes me feel like my life has value when I can help other people. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again next week. Bye guys.